Thank you, everybody, for coming this evening and taking time out of your day to attend our Enterprise Connectivity FCG panel. My name is Taylor Schultz. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I work on the University Relations team here at Ford as a tech recruiter. I'm really excited to be your host this afternoon. And again, thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. It is no surprise that the automotive industry is changing and Ford is changing along with it. We have traditionally been known as strictly a manufacturing company, but that is no longer the full story. Ford is a software company, and I'm excited to be able to highlight folks at Ford doing innovative work in technology. Before we jump into meeting our panelists, though, I would like to explain just a few things. First, what is enterprise connectivity? A fantastic question. Enterprise Connectivity, or EC, is one of Ford's newest and most agile teams. EC provides seamless end-to-end ownership for connectivity between the vehicle, consumers, and infrastructure within Ford. Now, what is the FCG program? It's also known as the Ford College Graduate Program. It is a 2 to 3 year opportunity that provides a variety of rotational job assignments for recent college graduates. Okay, now let's get into meeting our panelists, all of which are Enterprise Connectivity FCGs. So if you all could tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do here at Ford, we'll start off with Kayla.
Okay, for sure. Hi, guys. I'm Kayla. I am an FCG. I started the program back in July of 2021. So I'm like around 7, 8 months into my rotations. I did one rotation in as a driver's assistance technologies design and release engineer, and now I am currently doing driver's assistance technologies perception systems engineering. So that's where I'm at currently, and I'm looking forward to the rest of my rotations.
Awesome. Kayla, thank you. Okay, we'll hop over to Sean. Can you give us an introduction too?
Afternoon, everybody. My name is Sean. I graduated with my bachelor's in electrical engineering from Florida A&M. And what else? I'm also an FCG, obviously. And my first rotation, I was a design and release engineer, or DR. And currently now I'm helping with the Ford Marketplace website, so a web developer. I didn't learn too much coding in school, but I'm learning a lot now, and yeah, that's pretty much what I do day to day.
Awesome. Sean, thank you. Okay, and last but not least, Pedro.
Hello, everyone. My name is Pedro. I am a former FCG. I finished the program back in August, and so right now I'm in my full-time role. I am a connected vehicle quality lead, so I work with the Ford Pass app and triaging customer issues that are seen out on the field, and trying to figure out what the permanent correct. That's it.
Pedro, the audio broke up a little bit. We missed
Okay.
the very end of what you said. Can you repeat one more time what you currently do?
Yeah, so I'm a connected vehicle quality lead. I work on customer-facing issues on the Ford Pass application. So Ford has their own application, and you can perform connected remote commands such as lock, unlock your car, and those are the kind of issues that I work with currently.
Awesome. Thank you. We heard that one. Appreciate it.
Problem.
Okay, so before we get into some of the questions, I wanted to mention that if you have any additional questions that you're curious about, you can always drop them in that chat feature at the bottom. Someone on my team is going to monitor the chat, and if we have additional time at the end, we will throw in some questions from the participants that are watching today. I really hope that the audience gets to walk away with a clear understanding of the experiences of our three panelists, who are all Enterprise Connectivity FCGs here at Ford, or former FCGs, but specifically what they get to do every day working on technology and software projects. So we will kick it off. My first question, and a few of you answered a little bit of this, but I just wanted to start at the very beginning. So can you tell me what school you graduated from and what was your major? And we'll start with Kayla.
Yeah, so I graduated from the University of Detroit Mercy. I majored in robotics and mechatronic systems engineering as my bachelor's. And then I did the 5-year program. They have a 5-year master's program at Detroit. So I got my master's also in electrical engineering with a concentration in robotics.
Okay, awesome. You knew technology. You were like, technology, it's wrong. I'm doing. Awesome. And then Sean, you told us a little bit in your intro about where you went to school, but can you say again where you graduated from and what was your major?
Yeah, for sure. So I went to Florida A&M, that's Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University. Our engineering school is paired with FSU Florida State, so sometimes I just tell people I went to FSU because it's more well recognized. But so technically I went to both, but yeah, I went to FAMU and got my degree, well, my bachelor's degree in electrical engineering, and yeah.
Awesome. Okay. And then Pedro, can you share as well?
Yeah, I went to California State University, Fresno, and I graduated with a bachelor's in computer engineering.
Awesome. Pedro, while I have you, my next question is going to be, what was your path to Ford? So can you tell everyone a little bit about how you made your way here?
Yeah, so actually I started out as an intern. I did an intern the summer prior to graduating, and then a little bit after my internship, I got the offer for the Ford College graduate program, and I knew that I wanted to do a rotational program, and I enjoyed my time at Ford, so then I decided to come back as an FCG.
Awesome. Yeah. I believe all of you were Ford interns first. Kayla, is that true?
Yeah, I did 2 internships through Ford in the summers of 2019 and 2020. So I actually had one in-person internship and one virtual internship.
Okay, awesome. And then Sean, how was your internship experience and what made you continue to join the FCG program?
Yeah, for sure. Well, the first question was the route. So I
Okay.
actually met my mentor the summer between graduating high school and starting college. And I used to be very introverted. My mom actually forced me to talk to him. And when I talked to him, he was also electrical. He's in LL5 and he told me to just keep my grades up and keep in touch. So I took that literally. So I kept my grades up and every time I got for the first semester, every time I got a test score or anything, I would send it to him. And then it slowed down and every report card, well, not report card, every semester I would show him my transcript and he's like, okay, keep up the good work. So I did a mock interview with him my 10th grade year. I was still too young or not experienced enough for the internship. But then uh, I said 10th grade, sophomore, sorry. And then my junior year, um, I interviewed with him for real. It was very surprising. He called me, he was like, hey, what are you doing right now? I was just leaving the lab. And he said, I told him, nah, I just left lab. He was like, you got 10 minutes? Yep. All right, cool. Find a quiet place. I'm about to interview you. All right. Nice.
Nice.
So
I was going to say that's cool. Real time.
yeah. So he sat me, well, not sat me down, but he had me in a was it I don't think we were doing Zoom yet. So he just had me in a conference call with a couple of his bosses and they all shot questions at me. I answered on the spot. They really liked my answer. So I got my first internship, and then that was also in 2019. And then 2020, it was remote. That was interesting, but definitely adapted to it. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then shortly after that one, that's when I got my offer. Probably that very next spring, I got my offer, and yeah, life was good.
That's good. So what I got from your story was like is it moms always know what's best? Is that what we got from?
Yes, she definitely knew my shortcomings and would constantly push me out of my comfort zone because when I tell you I would not, had a very tough shell around me. I just didn't talk unless I would needed to.
Yeah.
But she was like, "Yeah, no, we're not leaving until you speak to this guy." And he was very cool, very, very cool. Helped me out a lot, helped me professionally, So yeah, I'm very grateful to her and him
Yeah.
getting me this far, helping me get this far.
That's awesome. Yeah, everybody's path to Ford's a little unique, and I think it's amazing that all of yours are some level of like connection. And yours, Sean, you spoke a little further in detail, but sounds like your mentor really just kept in contact with you, and that's amazing. Okay, my next question is going to be, can you give us an overview of your FCG rotation so far? So I know Kayla, you kind of did this in your intro too, but can you tell us a little bit about some of the rotations you've got to work on up until today?
Sure. So yeah, The first one I started in July. As I said before, I was a driver's assistance technology, which in short people say DAT or ADAS. So if I start saying that instead of that whole acronym, that's what that means. So I was a design and release engineer for the rear camera and surround cameras, which meant that I was in charge of releasing those cameras for a future vehicle line. You won't see this car till like 2025, so I'm not going to say anything else about it. But then my next one, the one that I'm currently in, I'm doing DAT perception systems engineering, and I am in charge of the tracker function. And that's probably not clear what that means from just calling it a tracker function. So to explain that a little bit more, I'm taking in the signals coming in from radars and cameras. They're fusing together, and the outputs of them are tracking, vehicles, pedestrians, bicyclists, and they're getting that information about like their velocity, their position, heading angle, motion type, and so on and so on. And I'm going to be giving that to features so that you can do things like automatic cruise control or advanced cruise control, pre-collision assist. All our different features are going to need those objects to be tracked. So that's what I'm writing requirements for.
Awesome. Yeah, that's super exciting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Pedro, can you tell us a little bit about, I know that you are not in the FCG program any longer, but can you do the same thing and give us an overview of some of your rotations?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I really enjoyed the FCG program because it gives you experience in a lot of different parts of the company. So I've had some experiences like working with hardware, like modules in the vehicle. I had a rotation in IT with a little bit of software. And then I've had rotations where it's like a kind of like a process between the modules and the vehicle. I mean, sorry, the modules and the cloud. So like that communication between those two systems. And I also had a launch rotation, so manufacturing related rotation. And I feel like it's all been vehicle connectivity related. So it all still helps me in my current job as well. So it was a really good experience.
Awesome. Yeah, that's so cool. Thank you. And then
Well,
Sean, can you give us an overview of your rotation so far?
yeah, for sure. Well, similar to the um sorry, similar to Kayla. I was also a DNR, but mine was for the ECG. So that's essentially the heart of the vehicle. All the modules, anything electronic that's happening in the vehicle, it goes through the ECG first, kind of like a filter. So I pretty much everything she said she did with hers, I did with the ECG. And then currently, what I'm doing is I'm working on the Ford Marketplace website. So all the APIs that Ford offers, I help present them in a nice, pretty way. And I had very little coding experience prior to this, which is why I took this because I was really interested in it, even though I didn't do too much of it in school. I feel like I'm learning it quicker now, but I feel like, it's a really good learning experience to kind of learn things on the fly and learn things in field as opposed to staring at a board, you know? So, yeah, I enjoyed both of them, but this one a lot more though.
Yeah.
I actually worked with Sean a little bit in my last rotation as well.
Yeah.
And that was completely a coincidence, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And Sean, that's awesome. I think sometimes the best way to learn is like what is it, trial by fire, where you just kind of step in and figure out like, all right, there's nothing like high stakes, like making it your job to figure something out. So that's really cool that you did that. My next question is actually going to feed a little bit off of Pedro and Sean, both of what you said. So can you tell us about a highlight in your Ford career thus far? Pedro, I know you mentioned a little bit about your launch rotation, but can you share a little more about your experience with everyone?
Yeah, so launch for everyone like on the call is basically like the pre-production period where you're like building the car, getting ready to ramp up in order to start selling to the customers. So I was able to work on the launch for the Mustang Mach-E, and that vehicle was built in Mexico City. So I was able to go to Mexico City and live over there for about a year during the launch. And it was like all paid for, and it was like great experience, work related and just like living related as well. And I speak Spanish, so that kind of gave me an opportunity to practice my Spanish as well, since like here I don't really use it a lot, but over there I was able to talk to all of the other engineers. I mean, they speak English as well, but I was able to communicate with them, and then the people that were actually like on the factory floor, I was able to talk to them whenever we had any issues. I was able to help translate to some of my coworkers that were also going from the U.S. And then it was a really good experience, and it's also really cool to see the car like out driving in the world right now. So like see it out on the road and know that I kind of had some input into it. So that was a really good experience. Definitely the highlight so far.
That's so cool. I think, Pedro, do you have the shirt on?
I do
Is
have
it
a
on
shirt on,
here?
yeah.
Yeah.
I
That's
actually
cool.
got this at a marketing event for the vehicle. It was a free shirt. I went to support just as a systems engineer, and they gave me a free shirt and a free jacket, so that was nice.
That's cool. Everybody loves free shirts. No, but that experience is really awesome too. And it was probably really impactful for the folks that were working down in Mexico City. To be able to to be able to communicate with you in Spanish was probably helpful for them too, because it sounds like there's a lot of advanced stuff happening. And so to be able to speak the language that they do, that's really awesome
Yeah.
that you were able to use that and go do that.
Yeah, it definitely helped translate it. I did have some issues with like the technical terms that I wasn't really used to, but after a while you start to learn. So
Yeah.
it was a really good experience, yeah.
I don't even know some of the technical terms in English, and that's my first language. So I can only imagine translating them to Spanish.
Yeah.
But
It
thank you.
was a really
That's
good
great.
experience. Yeah, no problem.
Sean, I know you mentioned a little bit about your internship experience at Ford. Can you tell us about a highlight in your Ford career so far? I think you have something to tell us about your internship experience.
Yeah, for sure. My highlight was this is probably what made me realize I really wanted to work for Ford. But I think it was my second or third day, my first internship. I am in the NMPDC. Well, if you guys come to Ford, it's the New Models Product Development Center. I think that's what it stands for. But pretty much when a vehicle is about to launch, they go there and they kind of just do diagnostic tests just to make sure everything is working properly. So my third day, and I was going in, they were working on the 2020 F-150 King Ranch and the one below that, I can't remember what it was called, but the King Ranch, it had a stow feature for the gear shift. And if you stowed it, you could fold out a table, eat lunch there or write something down. It was pretty neat. And when it was up, it left a little gap just in the center console. And what was supposed to happen is if, say, you put a water bottle or something there and you tried to stow it, it would sense the object and then come back up saying you can't do this. So the genius I am, I was like, hey, I wonder what happens when you put the key fob in there. And what happens is it locks and now it's broken. So the car's on and yeah, the key fob got trapped in the gear shift. So for like maybe 10 or so minutes, I'm just very suspiciously looking around, seeing if anyone saw that. And I eventually walked up to someone and was like, hey, I think I broke that F-150 over there. But to my surprise, they were excited. They were like, oh, wow, like, how did you do it? And I was like, yeah, I put the key fob in, boom. They're like, you know what? We're so glad that you did that because if someone, for some reason had to stop on the side of the highway or something like that and decided to do that, they'd be trapped. So it's a good thing that you found that when you did because no one else even thought about that. So that was the first time in my life ever that I've been praised for making a mistake.
Yeah.
So, and I make a lot of those. So I was definitely at home. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like it here.
That's so cool.
So
So it's good it wasn't like a break it, you buy it type thing either. So
I was really worried about because I'm like, I
yeah.
do not have $60,000 just sitting like
Day one
yeah.
of my internship, here we go. No, that's really cool. That's awesome, especially because it sounds like your team embraced curiosity and you being, not just sitting there and listening, you were actually like, all right, let's see what this feature does. And they learned something that day. So I think that's really awesome that you showed curiosity and that your team appreciated it. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing. All right, my next question is, what is an interpersonal skill or technical skill that you have improved on while working in the FCG program, and how did you improve on it? Pedro, we'll start with you.
So There has been definitely technical skills that I've developed, but I feel like something that I've improved the most was when I first started. I was kind of hesitant to speak up and provide my input during meetings or like any issues that were found. But as time progressed, and definitely through the FCG program, you start to kind of know what you know and know what you don't know, and it gives you more confidence to kind of like speak up and provide your input, and also with the help of management, like supporting you and letting you know, like, hey, like if you have anything to say, speak up. So I feel like something that I've definitely improved on during my rotations, definitely since I started.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. And that's great too. I think we forget that some of those like soft skills or interpersonal skills are just as important of a learning lesson as the technical skills are. I will pass
Yeah.
it over. Same question, Sean.
Yeah, so I know I keep bringing this up, but the coding, me being an electrical engineer, I had one coding class. And I actually, well, at first I sucked, but towards the end, I started excelling. And once it clicked, I got it. So I ended up having like one of the higher scores in the class, but then that was it. And I'm like, well, dang, that sucks. So, and I also realized that just as a professional, being able to code is very, very marketable. So, and I decided to go out on a limb and just do something completely different from my first rotation, and that, jumping on the coding train, jumping on the web development train, see how I like that. And so far, I love it. Like, honestly, I'm kind of upset I didn't think about it sooner. So, yeah, I definitely learned quite a bit here. And even when just starting, they were very accepting of the fact that I had very basic coding knowledge. And they pointed me in the right direction using tools like Pluralsight, which, if you guys don't know, if any of you are familiar with Khan Academy, like for math, it's that, but for like technical skills. So pretty much any language you can think of or that you could actually apply in the real world, they have it on there, and they have a bunch of videos and interactive activities for you to do to, learn how to code. So using that, I learned a lot in, yeah, a very short time.
Yeah.
Very short time. And
Sean,
was
can
able
you
to
say
apply it.
I'm sorry, can you say the site one more time, just in case anybody missed it?
Oh yeah. It's called Pluralsight. So plural as in like plural or singular, as plural, and then site as in eyesight. So pluralsight.com. I'm pretty sure it's a paid you have to pay for it, but through Forward, you can ask for a license. So I don't pay anything, it's free. I just use my Forward login and boom, I'm on. So that's very, very, and Forward has a lot of stuff like that too. I remember my first internship, there was another coding course that they just paid for. I'm like, hey, you want to do this? Here, take it. So yeah, I think it was called SysML. I haven't used it since, but it was neat that it was just an option, and I can put it on my resume just in case anyone, needs a SysML worker. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's really awesome too. That I think there are a lot of, especially in like the software space, I think there are a lot of like non-traditional software engineers that don't have to have a 4-year degree in computer science. We employ folks in enterprise connectivity that graduate from a 4-year university with a degree in mechanical engineering,
Yeah.
and then end up writing code just as you did.
Yeah,
So
like
that's cool.
yeah, one thing I'd like to add is that actually the 3 people that I report to, none of them have engineering degrees. So one of them was
Yeah.
economics, the other one was some social science, I don't remember, and then I can't remember the last one. But it was just like crazy to me that, wow, just by, coming into Forward or just using your own tools, you were able to learn this, and then now you're teaching me how to do it. So yeah, it was just very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Kayla, what about yourself? I know it's been a second since I said the question, but interpersonal or technical skills that you've improved on through the FCG program.
Yeah, probably more interpersonal skills are ones that I have gotten a chance to improve on, especially just in general, effective communication and active listening, and good note taking, I feel like have been important throughout my FCG experience. Yeah, because I'm just finding that, we're virtual, so, or at least I'm virtual, maybe not everybody is, but I find that I have to communicate differently with different members of my team. Some people might prefer a phone call and a half-hour meeting rather than a direct message or a text. So just figuring out what works best for people has been pretty important.
Yeah. Again, those are those things that I didn't learn those. There was no class in college about how to work in a in a professional working environment. So those things are definitely I definitely learned. So thank you for bringing light to that too. Okay, my next question is the tech space is always changing. So what are two technologies or technical skills, one or two, really, whatever you got, that you think students should absolutely graduate knowing? Like advice for someone graduating college, it is going to be really helpful if you learn this before you leave school. Pedro, do you want to kick us off again?
Yeah, sure. So, kind of touching on what Sean said, I feel like having at least one coding class is very helpful and very beneficial because I feel like those kind of classes kind of teach you how to think and how to problem solve efficiently, which also applies to like other issues, not just specifically coding. So it doesn't have to be like that particular like language, like not a particular language, but more of like how to solve the issue, like the logic behind it. So I feel like that's definitely a skill that you should have.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it for now.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's great. Kayla, anything to add to that?
I just have to echo it. Honestly, if you can learn MATLAB, you could probably figure out Python. If you know how to code in C, you could probably figure out C++. And so if you know one, you can usually figure out others. So that's really important to learn.
Awesome. All right. Sean, anything else to add?
3 times the charm, the exact same. Just know some coding because it's applicable in so many different areas. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. All right. So I am actually going to take a question from the audience. We have more questions, but this one was good, so I wanted to throw it in here. What is advice you would have for an incoming intern? Does anybody want to take that? I know I kind of threw it at you.
Sure. So okay, for an incoming intern, I would say don't be afraid to ask questions and don't be afraid to let your supervisor know what your interests are. So like if you end up maybe in like a breaking team, you work on breaks and you maybe like you think breaks are fine, but maybe you're interested in DAT, like things that I'm working on. It doesn't hurt to let your supervisor know what your interests are, because then maybe you could find a side project and interface with managers on that team, and just overall it will benefit you in your networking. So yeah, ask questions and let people know what your interests are.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's great. I know that at least Ford, how we run our internships is interns have work plans. But to your point, you might be working on something in your work plan that you find interesting, but hear about what someone else is working on. It never hurts to at least express the interest, because you never know what can happen or what help or something you can learn. So that's great. Sean, again on the spot. Anything to add to that question? Advice for an incoming intern? Does
Yeah.
it break things?
Yeah, so definitely building up on what Kayla said. Don't you only know what people tell you. So don't be afraid to not know anything, because that's me as a person. I can be very stubborn when I don't know something and I'll try to figure it out on my own. Don't do that because everyone is here to help you. And though it will feel great for you to figure it out, the chances are your first internship, you're not going to. So don't be ashamed of that. Two, take, I would, what I would do is have a journal or something. And even if you don't do this every day, do this like at least 2 or 3 times a week and write down what you did that week, because at the end of the internship, you're gonna have to do a project presentation, and you're gonna be grabbing at stuff like, okay, dang, what did I do 3 weeks ago, or what did I do 2 months ago? Like it's gonna suck. So definitely write down what you're doing and the progress you were making, so that way it'll make that process a lot more clean, efficient, easier, and it'll look a lot more structured. So they're like, oh wow, they actually paid attention. And my last thing, really, don't be afraid to go above and beyond where you see fit, because in my first internship, I think one of the selling points, because I didn't know anything, one of the selling points that make them want me back was that I showed drive and interest in other things. Like, for example, with the SysML class that I took, I'm probably the only person, at least in that immediate time frame, that applied that to something. So I took the class and they asked me to remodel something. So I used the SysML language that I learned to remodel the thing that they wanted me to remodel, on top of expressing interest in like getting a patent done. Like I had some ideas that I wanted to see, maybe possibly see implemented. So I showed them to my supervisor and displayed them in my presentation, and people were like, "Wow, like that's great." Even though I didn't know what the heck I was talking about, they're probably stupid, but they're like, "But the fact that he's even like presenting this to us, like as potential ideas." Like people were congratulating me on that alone. Like screw the rest of the presentation; they were focused on that part. So definitely, don't be afraid to express your ideas. Even if they seem stupid to you, they're probably not stupid to somebody else.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. I love what you said too. I love all that you said, but I appreciate the second bullet point too about writing down what you've done. I think that's important for anybody at any stage in your career. I know our internships are 10 to 12 weeks. I can barely remember what I did last week sometimes. So being able to recall what you did on week one is going to be a little tough because you're learning a lot. So I think that's fantastic advice to always write things down. And then Pedro, anything else to add? Advice for an incoming intern?
Yeah, so I think Sean's point was actually really well. We also had to do end of rotation presentations, and it took me at least like 2 rotations to remember to start writing everything down from the beginning to know what to present on. But yeah, I would say don't be nervous. I feel like having no experience to going and working at a big company can be a little intimidating, but everyone at Ford is really nice and they know you're an intern, so they don't expect you to know everything. I would also say make sure you network and you make contacts at the company. It also it's a huge company, but you end up working with the same people when if you already have that relationship as well. And get used to a lot of acronyms. We have like so many acronyms. We actually have like a website for the acronyms, so just get used to that.
Yep. Yeah. My first week, I just wrote down what everybody said and then just like looked it up later to try to figure out what had happened in the meeting.
Yeah, I
Um,
still have the bookmark like to this day.
you never know, they're always creating new ones too.
Yeah, that's
But
like
that's
same acronyms for like different things.
okay. My next question. You all have mentioned throughout our panel here about continued learning, so ways in which you've continued to learn while being here at Ford. But can you speak a little more on what tools or resources do you have here at Ford that allow for you to do that continued learning? And I'm going to pass it to Kayla first.
Yeah, so I want to say the main tool that I use for continued learning is our training website. We have a lot of courses on the training website. Some of them are like required for your role. Like when I was a DNR, there were a lot of courses that are specifically for DNRs. So I did a lot of those, but you can also expand into other areas that you have interest in. Like there's stuff about machine learning in there and, about the timing, the vehicle timing of like how we produce parts and what's required at each stage. So, yeah, I use that website usually when I want to continue learning.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Pedro, anything to add? Tools or resources to help you continue learning?
Yeah, I think what Kayla said, we do have a Ford training site, and also what Sean mentioned earlier, the what was it? I forgot what. Yeah, yeah, Pluralsight and all those coding sites. But I would say also just like with your day-to-day job, you're gonna learn as you go, kind of thing. You're not gonna know everything right off the bat, so as you do your job, you're gonna continue to learn. Also for like leadership skills or like interpersonal skills, there's mentorships available. Like if you know someone that you would want to work with, you can just reach out to them and ask them if it's okay for them to help you out or to mentor you, and more than likely they'll say yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Sean, anything to add on that one?
Yeah, so yeah, like I said, Pluralsight definitely helps out a lot. YouTube, you can find anything on YouTube. I've used it quite a bit, more than I'd like to admit. Um, and yeah, mentors is having the right people. You know, I've got one of my FCG buddy from my second internship actually ended up becoming a coworker, like my first rotation. I was in my first meeting, and then at the end, I was like, "Are you the same Andrew that was kind of giving me the rundown on the FCG program last year. And he was like, I think I am. So, and I still talk to him to this day whenever I have questions about Ford in general or how I should approach certain things. Even if he doesn't know what I'm talking about, he can still kind of generally give me good advice. And ERGs, which are just separate like they're cultural organizations. So for me, I forget what the acronym is, but they've got ones for Black employees, Hispanic women. They just kind of break it up like that. So in mine, I find it very easy to learn from them. They give me good advice, and their experiences and whatnot. So yeah, definitely I would take advantage of those. So
Another acronym, ERG.
Yeah.
yeah.
I was going to say ERG for anybody listening is Employee Resource Group. We actually have an entire, if you type in employee resource groups at Ford, just in Google, there's an entire page that'll list out all the different ERGs that we have here. I'll give you a little bit more information about those. But they're an awesome way at Ford to be part of a community, like Sean said, to continue learning about Ford, to connect with folks, especially being in somewhat of a remote environment. That's another awesome thing. You can get mentorship there. All types of good stuff in ERGs. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about mentorship as well. But Pedro, I'm curious to know, one, do you have a mentor here at Ford? And two, if you do, how did you find your mentor?
So actually, I did have a mentor. He actually took a job at another company. So
no.
yeah, I don't have one as of now. But when I started here as a FCG, I was actually assigned him as my mentor, and he was really helpful, really integral to my rotations. He helped me kind of come up with a good plan, like good rotations, and definitely helped me a lot with any questions that I had. But yeah, he was assigned to me as a through the program. I have gotten kind of like other supervisors who ask like, hey, if you need mentorship, let me know. I can help you out, kind of thing. But as of now, I don't have one. I should probably get one though.
Well, maybe this is a good kickstart, but no, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I think I know the FCG program still does that individually on your skill teams. They'll help pair you with a mentor. So I think that's not an easy thing to do, right? To find someone that's a mentor. Sean, do you have a mentor? You mentioned, I think, a little bit earlier. And how did you find your mentor or mentorship?
Yeah, well, I consider myself a person that actually actively seeks out mentors, but so I have quite a few of them. But I just mentioned Andrew. He was assigned to me my second internship, but my first mentor, there was a no, there wasn't a Florida recruiting event. There was a Florida A&M recruiting event, so where I went to school, and he presented. That was the engineer that my mom made me talk to, and he was just very helpful, helped me stay in kind of helped me along the way, going through FAMU and through Ford. And even just not even mentioning him, I feel like just people are very open and welcoming to new faces and people that don't know anything. So in my first rotation, almost every meeting that I was in, at least for like the first few weeks, people would DM me, or if they would DM me and ask me a question that as my role I was supposed to know, but obviously I didn't because it was my second week. I would tell them, hey, this is my second week, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, well, if you need a helping hand, I can hop on a 30-minute call with you and I can just kind of give you the rundown of what the guy before you used to do. So I found a lot of that helpful, and I talked to a lot of people that way. And even currently now, when I have troubles with the code that I have to work with, I've got a guy who literally will sit down and talk me through the problem. He's like, okay, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just going to ask you the right questions and see what you come up with. And he'll just sit there and watch me work on the problem. And he'll be like, okay, well, why did you do this? Or what do you think you should do about this? So I feel like just your coworkers themselves can be very helpful.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's great. And I think to your point too, it's something where sometimes they're not given, right? Sometimes it is an active where you have to seek out. The one thing that I've even noticed in my time at Ford too is that people are really open to always wanting to help out. So always ask a question, never be afraid to bring something up, never be afraid to ping somebody on WebEx or via email or give them a call. Everyone's always willing to help you out. because we're all on the same team. So, okay, my next question is, so the automotive industry, along with, I think, the tech industry, have historically lacked diversity. Ford prides itself on supporting and empowering employees to be their whole self at work every day. Can you tell us about how you bring your whole self to work every day, or your experience at Ford, in particular with the diversity? Pedro, I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, so I moved to Michigan from California, and so there was obviously a difference in Hispanic population going from here to there. So it like living there did feel a little like out of place kind of thing, but at work it never felt like that. I would go in and it like I would never feel out of place. Um, and I've noticed, well, we have this thing called One Ford. It's like you mentioned earlier, we're all on the same team. We're all trying to accomplish the same goal. And I feel like it is very prominent at Ford where they do try to make everyone feel included. And it's like an inclusive environment where you're like comfortable. You never feel like discriminated against or out of place. Like I said, it's always been comfortable place to work in. I would-
Awesome. I mean, I've lived in Michigan my entire life. So working at Ford and being in Michigan has been very, it's the same for me. But I think on top of for you, on top of the climate changing, there are probably many other things
Yeah,
that were
don't get me
different
started
besides the snow.
on the weather. Yeah, don't get me started on the weather.
You're like, no matter how nice the people are, it's still cold.
Yeah, that's why I moved away.
Yeah.
Sean, I will pass the same question over to you. Tell us a little bit about how you bring your whole self to work, or just your experience with the diversity piece here at Ford.
Yeah, for sure. Well, though I will admit that in terms of people ranking wise that are like, on my pay grade level, I don't see too many people that look like me, but that's not necessarily Ford's fault. But what I do notice is that in upper positions like LL6s, LL5s, those being like the manager, supervisor, stuff like that, the very first two people I met that worked at Ford were both Black. So that was very comforting to me. Like, okay, so even though it's not too many of me, I can definitely make it to where you're at, especially, with having a good work ethic and all, so it definitely was very appealing. And
Yeah.
I definitely feel like there's no, like, I don't feel like I'm ever being slighted. I always feel like everyone is genuine and, I just have to do what I'm supposed to do and then everything's good.
Yeah. I think what you said is awesome because representation matters, right? Seeing yourself, someone that represents you or someone that looks like you in a position of power is important, and that matters. And so for you to feel like you can come in and be successful somewhere, you have to see yourself, right? See someone that looks like you in that position to know that you can get there too. And not always, but that's like it's really important, especially in a work environment. So thank you for sharing. And then Kayla, anything to add to this question also?
Yeah, just like a little thing. I mean, obviously, I'm not a person of color, but I do have, the woman experience at a big company, at a car company that is usually a male-dominated area, of course, in engineering. But I have always felt like I am treated very fairly by my coworkers, very equally to my male coworkers. It's been great, actually. I've had two different female supervisors. My first ever internship, my supervisor was a woman, and my current mentor, or she kind of coordinates my rotations. She's a chief engineer, and she's super cool. So it's really great. I have those mentors, and I also see the amount of women it seems to be growing. It's of course still a work in progress. Ford is really trying to prioritize their diversity and equity and inclusion, and I see that being brought to life, I think, in the
Yeah.
company.
Awesome. Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing. Very cool. Okay, we are at our last 15 minutes or so. So I'm going to round us off with one last question. And it is from somebody in the audience. So the last question is, did your class experience prepare you for your first day on the job? So, and I'll let you take it any way you want. You can go internship or your first day of your FCG rotation, but did your class experience prepare you? And Sean, your smile has me interested in your answer, so I'm going to pass it to you first.
Absolutely not. I would say this might be a controversial take, but honestly, I feel like, or at least for the positions that I've had, anyone can do them as long as you have critical thinking skills and will put in the work. I have always been that friend that I won't say I'm not stupid by any means, but I've always been the one that would look at my friends like, dang, how are you getting 4.0s? Like, how did you get an A on that test? So then I would just work harder to try to keep up. But I feel like in the long run, that put me ahead of, well, I don't want to say ahead, but that put me in a better spot that, okay, he's willing to put in the work as opposed to just being talented. And I feel like bringing that mindset to forward, you'll be fine. So I definitely, if you're just willing to put in the work, yeah, you'll be okay. And because I'll be honest with you, I haven't looked at a single equation since I've been here. So all you engineering guys, like calculus, haven't used it once, haven't done a single derivative, a single integral, like nothing. So, but that might just be me, but I definitely think as long as you can think, you'll be fine.
Awesome. No, I think there's some level for me. I think there's some level of comfortability to know that it's not like there's some preset amount of information you have to know specifically as like a checklist on day one. It's really more about the attitude, I think. And that does come across in interviews too. Being on the recruiting team, we can tell that when we interview someone and they're talking about their experience or their passion in technology, regardless of what your resume says, that comes across. You can see that when someone's excited or determined or hardworking. Pedro, anything to add to did your class experience prepare you for your first day?
No, it's probably the same as Sean, as what he mentioned. So I did computer engineering, and like, I would say maybe like the only thing that I've done is like at hex and binary. I've used some of that, but besides that, like you said, no math, no physics. If you like again, like Sean said, if you have the right mentality, if you know how to think critically and solve issues, you should be fine in whatever position you're in.
Awesome. Yeah. Kayla, anything to add?
Yeah, I guess like just a little bit. My school has kind of a unique program, or my university that I went to has a unique program where you are required to do an internship every summer in order to graduate. And Ford was my third internship. So I mean, of course, it was a little bit different going into a car company doing driver's assistance technologies and things like that. Like I didn't take a class in ADAS, you know, I've just taken classes in learning about those sensors that might be on the vehicle or learning how to code and things like that. But also having those other internship experiences did kind of prepare me for the field that I was going into. And since my university did emphasize going into a career and getting into the engineering field, they had us take classes where we had to do critical thinking and think about the industry, do research on the industry, do technical writing, things like that. So there was like those little things that prepare you, but just to echo what Sean and Pedro have said, like you just have to be able to think critically, and hopefully your school courses prepare you for that, unless you're just too dang smart for that. But otherwise, yeah, I totally agree with them.
Awesome. Yeah. This doesn't mean like everybody stay in school. This is not a message again. It's important, but it just highlights that there are other things outside of that, real world experiences that you gain by having internships and taking a chance and reaching out to people on LinkedIn and all those things that you might not get just sitting in a classroom. So,
Yeah.
okay. I wanted to say thank you all so much for joining us today for our Enterprise Connectivity FCG panel. I hope you've gained some insight regarding what technology and software opportunities there are available here at Ford, especially for our recent graduates. A big thank you to our panelists, Kayla, Pedro, and Sean. Thank you all for sharing your experiences and also taking time out of your day to do this. I know everybody's really busy, so thank you for volunteering. Before we say goodbye, I want to mention just a couple things. If you've at all been interested in anything you've heard today, we will have our internships and FCG positions posted again in early September. They are going to be on careers.ford.com. So go ahead and check those out. You can check out the site right now. There's some direct hire positions up there, but our internships and FCG spots get posted in early September. Also, if you enjoyed this event, please follow us on Handshake. You'll be alerted when we have any upcoming events. And then also you can follow us all, or connect with us all is probably the right word, on LinkedIn. We would love to say hi. You can message us any of your other questions. Everybody would love to connect with anyone watching. So thank you, everybody, again. Thank you to our panelists. Hope everyone had a great evening, and we will see you again soon. Thanks, everyone.
Cool. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, don't be afraid to reach out.
Yeah, by all means.